Welcome to the 323 podcast, where we look at how faith and work intersect. Each week, we talk to business leaders and difference makers about honoring God in the way we lead, create, and serve, because in everything we do, our work can reflect the one we serve. Robert Garza served our country in the U.S. Army. When his time in the uniform was done, he didn't stop serving. He's now the director of the Paso Military Resiliency Center and the force behind the Warrior Java Cafe, a faith-guided community hub inside the Endeavors Health and Wellness Center, built to help veterans, active duty service members, and first responders and their families navigate the invisible wounds of military life. Robert, welcome to the 323 podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Take me back to the beginning. What drew you to the military in the first place?
So my family has been serving this country since the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
And we don't know anything else but to serve our beautiful country.
Awesome.
And that's what we love to do. And I can tell you that a strange dynamic is the person who pushed me the most was my grandmother, a Mexican woman who was just the most patriotic person I have ever known in my entire life.
Wow.
My father's a Vietnam veteran. You know, everybody served all the way back for generations. And one day she tells me, she says, hey, you know, what do you think you want to do after all when you graduate? And I said, well, you know, I'm looking into the medical field. And she said, well, all that's good when you get out of the Army. So, you know, she was always pushing us to serve our country. And up until the day she passed away, she was like asking about my youngest son. Did he join? Did he sign up already? You know what I mean? So that really was an anchor and everything. And I always knew from as long as I can remember that I was going to be a soldier just like my dad. Oh,
what a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And what a cool legacy. Yeah, just the power of the grandmother in our lives, right?
Yes.
is pretty strong. So tell me a little bit about your service.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where did you serve?
Sure.
And what did that look like?
Yeah, so I came in the Army right after high school, 1994, February. And I've been stationed all over the world, right? I served in Hawaii, Germany, stateside here in Fort Stewart, Georgia, Fort Lewis, Washington, Fort Hood, Texas, here in Fort Bliss, Texas. So I had the opportunity of seeing many great places in our country and across the world. But, you know, I've also been deployed to many places, right? So served in Bosnia, served in Iraq, served in Afghanistan. Wow. So we had the opportunity to not only experience different cultures within the United States, but different cultures around the world. So I think it really prepared me for the life I'm living now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's something that civilians who have not been part of a military family might not know about just the struggle of military life for families?
You know, one of the things that we experienced as we, me and my wife, entered our military careers, you know, very, very young. And I say careers because my wife served too. She's not a veteran, but she served me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So they don't get credit
yeah.
that they deserve, but as military spouses. But she serves as well because a lot of sacrifice comes on their part as well. But one of the biggest things for us was not really understanding that every place we traveled or moved to, we were alone. We didn't have that family support, right? We didn't have mom to reach out to, grandma to reach out to, whoever it was. We had to do it alone, right? And the whole reason we stayed here in El Paso is our sons and daughters started making their homes here and creating their families here, and I started having granddaughters here, and their careers are here. So we said, we're not going to put our kids through that challenge. We're going to be here to support them with the family support that they need every day. So we never left El Paso, and we just didn't want our kids to experience going through those challenges alone.
Okay, awesome, great. So when you transitioned out of the military, tell me about that season. What did that look like? How did you find your footing as you entered back into civilian life?
Yeah, so in 2014, I started the journey to get out, right? In April of 2015 was my last day. April 30th was my last day in the military. And I can tell you that my last tour in Afghanistan was in 2013. Okay. And that had woken up things that I had never dealt with all the way back to the very beginning, right? Oh, wow. And so that I had already started dealing with the PTSD and stuff like that and things I never thought would happen to me, right?
Sure.
So as I transitioned, got out, then the other struggles start coming in. You know, when's my next job going to come? When's my next paycheck from the VA going to come? When's my retirement check going to hit, right? All these things start worrying. But what overwhelmingly took over me was the anxiety, the depression, the PTSD, and everything that came with it. And I struggled with that up until about 2021. So in that time, I was in the darkest places I've ever been.
That's
right?
a long season.
Yes, and it was not for. I wasn't stuck there because I wasn't trying to get out of it. I just, it wasn't time, right?
Sure.
And so, I mean, I did therapies. I did so many things you can think of. You know, I mean, we continued our growth in God and attending church, and you know, getting my family involved in my treatment. When I got my wife involved in it, it's when I really made a big step forward, right? Because many times as arguments happen, she didn't know it wasn't her, right? And one day a therapist tells me, she says, hey, listen, this is a doctor, a female therapist. She says, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you something about us women. We think it's us all the time, right? And
Guilty, yes.
and I said, you know, okay. And I said, how do I do it? She says, bring her. And so I brought her, and we started incorporate her and just letting her see a session and making her understand, like, you know, now do you understand why he acted like this week? Like this way last week or whatever it was, and she started really grasping things, and it created a growth of, she understood me now, right? She understood when I was in a bad mood or quiet or pulled away or isolated, whatever it was, and I think it changed the entire dynamic of our marriage, because we communicated without having communicated. And what I mean by that is, I would send her a text from the other room and say, hey, listen, I'm not having the best day, but I don't want to be loud, I don't want to be rude to you, and I don't want to be mean to you, so I'm just giving you a heads up. And she would very gently walk by me, touch my shoulder as an acknowledgement or just whatever it was. But that was huge for me.
Yeah.
And in those times, there was so much struggle, so much depression, so much, you know, the nightmares, and all this was just overwhelming me. And I had gotten to a point where, you know, several times I was going to take my life, right? And one of those times, I had a knife sitting right next to me on the floor, and I was in my room downstairs, which is just a dark room that I use for headaches. And I was home alone, and I knew that if I did what I was going to do, no one would find me. No one, you know, I would be able to just go.
Right.
And I am screaming to the Lord. I am looking up at the sky, and I'm in this room looking up at the ceiling, and I'm saying, hey, please give me a sign. Please tell me something. Show me a path. Tell me anything. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm supposed to be alive, supposed to be dead. What is it? So I actually fell asleep on the floor next to that knife. About a week later, I am driving from northeast El Paso to the east side, taking Loop 375, Purple Heart Memorial Highway. I am a Purple Heart recipient, but this day I had seen the sign, which I had driven by hundreds of times, but never noticed that it was not purple, but white, just sun-faded, ugly. Yeah. And my first thought was, you're disrespecting my brothers that I carried alive and dead off the battlefield. You're disrespecting their families that you know, are here alone now. That is not a memorial sign. So I made it my mission to really get that sign changed. And I started calling city, county, state officials. Everybody said, hey, we can't do it, no budget, sorry, you know. And I said, okay. And I never gave up. And Halloween day of 2022, I get the phone call, hey, Mr. Garza, the sign's coming up. So I was able to get the state to pay for the sign, redesign the sign, put an additional sign on the other side of the road. But in that time, I really got connected with veterans organizations such as the military, the Purple Heart, the VFW. I started becoming commander of this, president of that, sitting on this committee, sitting on this board. And one day it clicked. I said, for over 20 years, I've been taking care of soldiers and their families, and that was my purpose. Now I'm taking care of my brothers and my sisters, my veteran brothers and sisters, advocating for them, bringing programs here, doing things that we didn't have in El Paso before. And I thought back one day, and I was driving down the road again, and it hit me. I realized that when I had asked our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for a sign, he gave me a literal Purple Heart sign that put me on the path to where I sit in front of you today.
Oh, wow. What an incredible story of God's faithfulness and mercy. And my prayer is that your story is hitting someone's ears, listening to this radio show, this podcast right now, someone who maybe is asking for that sign, and your story can be that sign. Your story can be that sign that God is here, God is going to meet you, God is faithful. Because, many not just veterans, but many people have walked that journey. So, such an encouraging story, and I love how God gave you something outside of yourself to go pour into and be passionate about. So, tell me how you briefly the story of how you ended up at the Warrior's Journey, and tell us, our listeners, a little bit about the Warrior's Journey.
Sure. So I was actually working for the U.S. House of Representatives, and the way I got that role, and I'll just back it very short on that, was my wife one day comes up to me and says, "Hey, listen, I love that you found your purpose. I love it. I'm so happy for you. You know, things are going great, but we don't see you enough, right? You're volunteering too much." And I said, "Okay," and I grabbed her by the shoulders and I said, "Hey, listen, I don't know what it is, and I don't know when it is, but something good's going to come. I know the Lord has a plan." And about a month after that conversation, we're sitting at home watching TV together because, you know, she said, "Hey, we're not spending time," so I was making an effort, right? And my phone call, I get a phone call from a staffer of a congressional office, and I had the number in there, but never received calls from him. So I was like, okay, well, see what this is about. And as the call progressed, I looked at my wife and I put it on speaker and I said, "Here's something good," right? And he says, "Hey, listen, we know what you're doing in El Paso. We know how connected you are with the veteran community. Would you consider doing it for our office as a regional district director?" And I said, when's the interview? And he says, well, and this is a Friday, he says, "Monday morning." And I said, sure, you know, I'll be there. I hung up that phone, looked at my wife, and I said, "Hey, if you don't support this 100%, then I'm not going to do it." And she said, "Go get it." So I went and got it. And I worked there for a year, August 24 to this past December. And in November, I started looking at opportunities. I got an Indeed one day. And, you know, in that lifestyle, working for, you know, congressional people, your job hinges on them getting reelected, right?
Absolutely,
so I was like, let me just look just in case, right? So I started looking, and I saw the director's position for the El Paso Military Resiliency Center here in El Paso for the Warrior's Journey. And I just thought to myself, well, mental note, get your resume ready for it. And that's where it stopped. About a week later, I go to a meeting and I see a great friend of mine here from the veteran community, and he says, "Hey, brother, have you heard of the Warrior's Journey?" And I said, "You know, it's funny you say that. I was looking at their job posting." He's like, "That's you? You need to go get it." And I said, "All right, cool. I'll think about it." That night, he calls me and says, "Hey, did you apply?" And I said, "No." He's like, "What are you waiting for? Like, apply." So I applied. 58 applicants later, 4 interviews later, I was a director. I was now, you know, hired as the El Paso Military Resiliency Center director. So there's what's so unique about this place is the fact that and I'm going to put our mission very simply: suicide prevention through connection. That is the most important thing we provide, is connection. So many times our veterans come, they don't want to talk to a therapist, to a doctor. We don't want more pills. We just want to talk to a brother or sister who has a like background and understands our lifestyle, understands our language, and can communicate with us, right? So one of the cornerstone programs of the Warrior's Journey is our Connector program. And it's nothing more than just providing a healthy veteran to be that listening ear for that veteran when he needs to talk, right?
Yeah.
And this program has saved so many lives. And I'll tell you what I love about it is, as a veteran comes in seeking connection, they in turn get in better places and come back and say, "Hey, how can I become a connector now? How can I be the one providing that listening ear?" But what's unique about what we do is, yes, we're providing that listening ear. You think you're venting, you think you're letting everything out, but our connectors are really triaging these conversations and paying attention to the details and saying, "Hey, you know what? He can't pay his rent. Hey, you know what? Marriage is falling apart. Hey, he's super depressed." And they come back to me or their assigned director and say, "Hey, this is what I'm seeing." Now we provide the resources and referrals to them in their next conversation. So that veteran, that connector may say, "Hey, listen, you said you can't pay your rent this month. We have a great community partner here in Amistad who has a general assistance fund who can pay your rent one time. You think we can refer you to them?" Or, "You know what, your marriage didn't sound so great. We have a great program here at the Warrior's Journey called Valor and Vows. You think we can sign you up for that program?"
Oh, wow.
Yes, great. So now they thought they were venting, but now they're getting resources to get them through all these challenges that they're facing. And then when it's time for them, because we don't push it on anybody, when it's time and when they ask for it and they say, hey, you know what? I've been looking for my connection back to God. I've also created here a mass network of all denomination of churches. When a veteran comes up and says, hey, brother, you know, I used to go to a Catholic church and I just want a Christian church, but I don't know how to start. Or I used to go to church all the time and I've been out for so long and I don't know, I'm embarrassed to go back. First thing I do is I say, hey, where do you live? Right here. What kind of church you want to go to? This kind. Let me pull up my spreadsheet. Hey, let's go talk to Pastor John. Maybe we can get you connected for service this Sunday. And I'm telling you, it's really working. And one metric, one number that I did not know about the Military Resiliency Center was going to be a number for me, a metric for me. In 3 months, we have given out 300 Bibles to veterans just coming in seeking that one small piece of their faith.
Wow. That's beautiful. It's amazing where God reveals those things to us that we didn't know part of our mission was going to be giving out Bibles.
Sure.
Or, you know, the thing I love about what you're saying right now is that there are so many different organizations that do serve veterans. And there's a lot of worthy organizations out there. But what I love about what you're doing is that you're able to connect the veteran with the resource they need. Exactly. And I know, you know, my husband is a veteran, he serves veterans, and I know one of the frustrations is bureaucracy and having to call 100 numbers to get the care you need. And so I love that the Warrior's Journey plays a part in helping to serve veterans in that way.
Yeah, you know, the Resiliency Center is unique in the fact that we're in the Endeavors Health and Wellness Center, which provides, you know, with the Stephen A. Cohen Clinic has mental health services. The El Paso VA is about to put a mental health clinic in there, and all the wellness, the physical wellness programs that they have there. So I will tell you that this building is unique in the sense of there is no other place you can walk into, and if there is, please tell me. There is no other place you can walk into in El Paso and get mental healing, physical healing, and spiritual healing all in one place. And I think it's very unique, and we're going to change the game here in El Paso and save lots of lives.
Amen. I love that. And if you haven't had a chance to go out and visit the Military Resiliency Center, it is gorgeous. I had the opportunity to go out and visit, and it is not what you would expect an institutional building. It is just a really welcoming and beautiful place. And I think it is just such an example of excellence and how we serve the Lord with excellence. And part of that is creating beautiful, welcoming spaces where veterans might actually be excited to come. One of the ways you're doing that is through the Warrior Cafe. Am I getting it right?
Warrior Java Cafe.
And so tell me a little bit about why you did that. So it's not typically part of what the Warrior's Journey does. The Warrior's Journey is a national organization. But you have here locally decided to go into the coffee business. So tell me a little bit about why that happened and how you're using that to reach veterans.
You know, I like to tell my employees, our baristas, that they're the first line of defense, right? So a lot of times when you go to, and I won't name names, but you go to different coffee shops, right? There is not a sense of community, right? It's get in, get your coffee, don't look at me, don't talk to me, I don't want nothing to do with you. Here, we're creating the environment of talk to me. Tell me your story. Let me listen to you. I have connectors that we talked about earlier that just walk around throughout the day creating conversation with our patrons who come in, whether they're veterans, first responder, family members, whoever they are, the community members. We just sit there and talk with them, right? And I tell my baristas, you have to be so intentional with your words every time you talk to a veteran here because you are the first line of defense. When you ask them, hey, how's your day going? I want you, and when they say, oh, it's good, I want you to say, no, sir, no, sir. How's it really going?
Yeah.
And then believe it or not, we've had so many patrons that come back just for that conversation every day. I love Sarah. I love Bella. Oh my God, Elsa's amazing, right? And they come back to see them, right? And that's important because they know they can come somewhere and not only have, you know, a great cup of coffee, the best coffee in El Paso, but they can also have connection and they can be with brothers and sisters. Yeah. So I think it's unique in the sense of it's more than a cup of coffee. It's helping one veteran at a time, one cup at a time.
I love it. And this is what the 323 podcast is all about. We talk about Colossians 3:23 that calls us to do everything as unto the Lord and not as unto man, or some translations even say human bosses.
Sure.
And so what you do each day, what your staff does is truly service to the Lord and service to these veterans. Tell me a little bit, as we have a few minutes left, I'd love to hear how some of what you learned in leadership in the military, how is that translated over now as you run both a nonprofit and this coffee shop? How have those skills really helped and supported you in your leadership?
You know, I was really blessed throughout my career to be guided by great leaders. And I had some great mentors that still mentor me to this day. And one of the first things I ever learned was listen, right? Don't talk, just listen, right? And that is the cornerstone of what we do in our organization at the Warrior's Journey at the El Paso Military Resiliency Center. We listen, right? So I think that first step, that first thing that I was ever told when he told me, be quiet and listen, right? And then he explained to me why I need to be quiet and listen. Now I've taken that and used it when I'm having my conversations with our veterans and I'm listening and I'm paying attention. I'm being intentional in my listening and really being, focusing on the need of each veteran. So I can say that for me, I know there's so many other things that I can say in the leadership, but listening is the most important thing that's really translated in this specific role.
Well, and I think absolutely listening to the veterans, but also for those of us who are leaders in the workplace, listening to our employees. I think so often we walk into a meeting and we just want to download, like, you do this, what's going on here, give me the information I need, because that's efficient, or because we feel like we just need to move on to the next thing. But there is so much power when we stop and listen. Yeah. So often our employees have the answers, and we're so anxious to provide them the solution or the answer that we don't stop and say, how do you think we should solve that problem? Or what are your ideas? And so I love that skill is so translatable for every leader at any level of any organization. So I love that. What are some of the ways this season at the Warrior's Journey and the Warrior's Java Cafe are sort of stretching you as a leader? What are you learning? You know what?
I'm really learning. So there is a dynamic of the nonprofit world that I've dealt with nonprofits in the volunteer side. I've never been in charge of anything, right? I've never been in that role of being a director. So I think there was a learning curve as far as the business side of the nonprofit world, right? And understanding that there is a business aspect to it, right? So there's been some growth there, and I've been blessed to have really great mentors in the community here who run great nonprofits, and I have a great CEO, right? And Kevin Weaver, who really is there to coach and mentor me almost every day, and I've got a great operations manager in Rachel Barrett who always pours in, who's always there to answer any question I have, because yes, I've got great connections, yes, I've got a great purpose, yes, I can do all these things, but sometimes I still need help. I still need direction, right? Because I don't try to act like I know it all, and I'm quick to ask, hey, listen, I need your advice on this, or what's your recommendation on this? So having that great connection with my leadership probably makes me that much better every day. And then also the biggest thing is making sure my work-life balance.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm not the best at it, never been the best at it, but I'm getting better every day, and I pray the Lord on it. And me and my wife are working together on that every single day. I make sure that she feels like she's number one, and I work really hard on that. And again, I haven't aced it yet, but I'm getting there.
Do you have any tips for I feel seen right now? I struggle with work-life balance. Is there any one thing that you've done that has really helped you kind of turn the corner with that one, even small habit that you're doing to help maintain work-life balance?
So the minute I get in my truck when I'm heading home, I stop answering phone calls.
Oh.
Unless I know it's a life or death situation. Yep. I stop answering phone calls. I had the bad habit of getting home, keep answering calls, keep answering texts and emails, and now I put the phone in the other room and I don't touch it until the morning.
That is such a great idea. Yeah. Yes, that is something that I think all of us as leaders could implement today and just find greater work-life balance. But I think God honors that. God really honors it when we are creating those boundaries, and he's not going to let things fall to the ground. He's not going to let things fall apart when we have the boundaries he asks us to set. Well, Robert, this has been a fabulous conversation. As I expected, our time has gone by so quickly. But I would love for you to tell our listeners how they can find out more about the Warriors Journey, the Military Resiliency Center, and the Warriors Java Cafe.
Sure. So there's a couple ways they can do that. One, they can come into our El Paso Military Resiliency Center, which is located in the Endeavors Health and Wellness Center at 12135 Pebble Hills. Or they can go to our website, twj.org. Or if they're a veteran in crisis or someone who wants to volunteer to be a connector, they can call our number. And our number is 213-895-4357. And that's 213-895-4357.
Thank you so much, Robert. And we will make sure that that number and all of your links are in the show notes and the description. So if you are listening to us on your favorite podcast app, then you can go ahead and look at the show notes. But certainly, if you are a veteran, an active duty service member, a first responder, or the family member of someone who is one of those things, and you're hurting right now, there are people who love you. There are people who care. There are people who are waiting to listen. So grab that phone number, give it a call, and you will be connected with someone who can help. Thank you so much for being here today, Robert.
Thank you.
If God is writing a story in your workplace, we'd love to hear about it. You can share it with us by visiting 323podcast.com. That's the numbers 323podcast.com. We'll be back again next week with more great conversations on connecting your Sunday faith to your Monday life. Until then, may God bless your work this week. May He renew your strength, deepen your joy, and remind you that you're serving Him in all you do.